Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel a good few times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the last couple of years. They are still a relatively new addition to the Swedish beer scene, but they've been building a good reputation for themselves, and I would say that they probably are best known for their different kinds of New England hazy, whatever you want to call them, IPAs. Now, the beer we're going to have a look at today is one of their latest releases through Systembolaget. It's a style that I've not tried from them before, if memory serves me correctly, and it's a style that I very much enjoy as well. So, needless to say, I'm quite curious to see what this one is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head up to Åre, a very well known ski town in Jämtland County, or Jämtlands län, and we're going to have a look at another beer from Svartbergets Fjällbryggeri. So this particular beer is called Unleash Hellas. It comes in at 4.7% ABV, and I think you can tell from the name this one is a German style Hellas lager. So this beer is also produced in collaboration with two Instagrammers, Dricker and Bachman Valse. So Dricker does lots of really nice pictures of different spirits and meals with beer and stuff like this. The photos are actually really nicely done, and Bachman Valse seems to be a little bit more of a kind of design orientated Instagrammer. There's pictures of different rooms and posters and again spirit bottles and things, so maybe a label designer or something like that. There really wasn't that much information on their kind of pages and stuff like that, but there were some very nice photos. But this beer was released as part of the local Osmoskalig assortment through Systembolaget here in Sweden for, I think this one came out for October of 2022, and I think this is the last one we're looking at for, oh no, this is September, this one, sorry, yeah, this one came out in September, and this is the last of my September local beers that I have lying around. So yeah, cool to finish this off, and as I say, this is a style I very much enjoy. My first lager beer from Svartbergets, if I remember correctly. So let's crack on and see what this beer has in store for us. As always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Svartbergets Fjällbryggeri before, and there will no doubt be more added to that list in the near future, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support you give is massively appreciated. You can of course go into the channel homepage and search for beers based on your home county, state, whatever you like, and you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries as well. You'll find this one in the Swedish playlist. But let's crack on then and have a wee chat about Svartbergets then, or Svartbergets Fjällbryggeri, the Black Mountain Brewery if we translate it into English. So Svartbergets, as I mentioned to you already, are based in Åre in Jämtland, and the company was founded back in 2017. So the brewery was originally based in the basement of the Åre Ski Inn restaurant, and the main man behind the brewing is Philip Hafstad, who had been a home brewer for about 6 years previously, and then he joined the company having worked for a period of time in Asia. But the restaurant is a family business, and it was founded in 1980 when Arne Hafstad built the restaurant on the hill. At the restaurant they have 10 taps, and originally they had to transport the beer up the hill by bike every week. But later in 2019, owing to the success of their beers, they decided to invest more in the brewery side of the business, and so they opened up a second and larger production facility in Durid, which is equipped with a 2,000 litre brewing system, and they hired Sebastian Torneus to come in as the brewer. But they've gradually expanded their output, and over the course of 2020, they produced around 100,000 litres, and they estimate that they could eventually expand this up to 350,000 litres, and I think that is what they're doing, is just gradually expanding up to capacity as things go. But as of October 2022, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 60 different kinds of beer, and as I mentioned earlier, this brewery probably is best known for their different kinds of hazy New England IPAs. So yeah, I think that's everything we can really tell you about Svartbergets Fjällbryggeri for the moment. So yeah, if you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about the different beers. Untappd probably is the most comprehensive list, and you can also check out my other videos that I've done from them previously. But yeah, that is everything for the history section. So we're just going to pause the video a second, and I'm just going to clear some things out. Alright, that's sorted, feeling a lot more fresh now. So we can actually focus on the beer and have a little look at this then. So just to let you have a wee look at the artwork on this one before we open it up. As you can see, quite straightforward, actually quite nice, I have to say, like an explosion as soon as you open this. As soon as you open up a Helles, the floodgates open and you want some more beer. Guess that's maybe what it's meant to signify. But yeah, gold top can on this one, white wrapped as well, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, you can see there are the symbols for Drieker and Bachmann Valse on the back. So yeah, nicely presented can, this one. So yeah, this at my signal, this is one of the things that was on the Drieker Instagram as well. And of course, for those of you that don't speak Swedish, Drieker is just, drinks. So yeah, this one should be quite nice. So unfiltered, unpasteurized premium lager, 4.7% Helles beer. I think we should just get this out, have a taste of it and see what it's all about. Why not? So yeah, let's put this out and into the glass. Ooh, this does look quite nice actually. So anyway, as you can see, it's poured pretty much as you would expect from a Helles lager. So before the head disappears, you can see there's a good finger and a half maybe of a frothy, I would say perfect white head. You can see a mix of nice kind of slightly bigger bubbles near the top, a few kind of more bumpy things going on there, but yeah, kind of like an almost slightly soapy head in fairness. But yeah, you've got a lovely you've got a kind of lovely mix of bubbles in there, but it looks great. Colour wise, this one's a lovely kind of pale golden straw. Remember, the colour of your beer depends on 1, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. 2, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging that you do or any adjuncts that you put in will affect the colour of that beer as well. But yeah, that's just that's kind of how it goes. You don't normally have to care about those two variables when it comes to lager beers like this. But in terms of the colour you would expect from a Helles lager beer, yeah, this one is pretty much it. It has got a little bit of a natural haze to it. It does say it's unfiltered, so maybe we have got a wee bit of sediment in this one. It was sitting in the fridge for a little while, of course, so we'll check that just before we actually taste the beer. But colour-wise, this is exactly what you would expect from the Helles lager. Of course, the main definition of a lager is that it's a beer that uses cold temperature fermentation, bottom fermenting yeast. There are many different kinds of lagers, of course. In Germany, you have the Helles, the Dunkel, the Schwarzbier, the Bock, Doppelbock, Maibock, all of these kind of things. In the Czech Republic, you've got the Svetli, Letsak, Cherny, Tmavy, you've got Vienna lagers, you've also got Pilsners, things like this as well. But yeah, the basic definition is that they use a low temperature fermentation, bottom fermenting yeast. And yeah, the Helles, the equivalent of the Helles in the Czech Republic would be the Svetli, of course. So yeah, looks very, very nice. This one pretty much as you would expect from the style. I don't think we need to say anything else about the appearance of this one, to be honest with you. It looks exactly as you would expect for a kind of modern Helles type lager beer. Let's take a look at that aroma then and just see what we have in store, or what this is going to have for us. Oh yeah, straight away with this one, I'm going to say that this one, it is actually, it says it just contains barley malt. I was going to say that. It almost has a little bit of that very slight corn adjuncty sweetness to it, which is kind of funny. So yeah, I will say, when they say premium lager, of course, these beer, usually the premium lagers, oddly enough, are the kind of cheapo ones, the sort of cheap shitty ones. But yeah, in this one actually, it does have a little bit of that kind of macro type smell to it. And that's not something we're used to from Svartbergets, of course. But yeah, the more that you smell it though, the more that your nose adjusts to it, it does give you more of the kind of straight up soft white bread that you'd expect of, say, the like the Paulaner Helles or the Augustiner Helles, something like that. It is like one of these kind of typical Munich type Helles beers. So yeah, you start to get more of that as your nose adjusts to it. But it does smell pretty solid actually, if we think about the beer in that particular category. And let's just see if we've got any more sediment with this. Nah, we don't. Let's have a wee look at the aroma a bit more then and just see how it develops in that sense. So, yeah, it's pretty much as you would expect from the style though. You've got a little bit of fresh white bread crust forming the backbone of the beer. On top of that, some fluffy, you know, you do have a little bit of a kind of fluffy white bread in there as well. Maybe little hints of a slight Jacob's cream cracker, of course. So yeah, fresh white bread crust, soft fluffy white bread from the barley malt, and you've also got a little bit of that Jacob's, that Jacob's cream cracker. Yeah, absolutely. There's a little touch of sweetness to this one. So you get a little bit of that kind of McVitie's digestive biscuit note to it, maybe a little small bit of honey or something like that, and that's, yeah, sitting right in the middle of the nose. Of course, the main difference between the German Helles and the Czech Svetli, in my experience, is that the Czech lagers tend to be more yeasty more than anything else, so that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, aroma wise, this one has kind of everything you'd expect from the style and the malty side. Bit of fresh bread crust, white bread, some cracker, a little bit of a kind of biscuity note, a little bit of honey. Yeah, the way that this beer goes together, I think, is very, very nice. Yeah, I like it. Big thumbs up from me in that sense. On the hoppy side of things, again, it's kind of what you'd expect. I think it's pretty sure it's German noble hops that have been used in this, you know, Hallertau Mittelfrüh, something like that. So yeah, I wonder if this is going to be like a core beer for them or something like that, because it's seems pretty solid. Quite a few breweries are doing that, releasing like a core lager, and you know, from a business perspective, it makes sense because it can be a kind of cash cow, if you like, and let them do more experimental stuff, of course, if they can produce a quality one. But yeah, hoppy wise, this beer is what you'd expect. There's a little bit of soft, kind of smooth earthiness in there, a little touch of herbal character to it as well, but then you start to get the kind of brighter side of the green component. There's a little bit of floral aromaticity there. You've also got a bit of a lighter kind of grassiness as well. Yeah, aroma wise, for me, this beer is very nice actually. I like how this goes together. Yeah, it gets a thumbs up from me for sure. Yeah, the green component is pretty solid actually, and it's, you know, it just adds a little bit more depth to the beer. On the fruity side of things, again, it's what you'd expect. There's a little bit of that sort of sultana, you know, dry white green grapey character, a little touch of oily pear for sure, and maybe a wee hint of fresh green apple. But I would say that the most dominant component of the fruity side of the beer is a more kind of oily peary character actually. So yeah, aroma wise, I think that's covered everything we really need to say about this beer. It's a very kind of straight shooting beer, and it shows you everything you would want from the style, of course. So let's crack into it and see what it's going to offer us. So yeah, as we said, this one is the Unleash Helles, a 4.7% Helles lager beer from Svartbergets Fjällbryggeri in Ora in Jämtland here in Sweden, in collaboration with the Instagrammers Drycker and Bachman Valse. So yeah, let's have a taste. Let's do this. Slange, skål, cheers. Looking forward to this. I think my first lager from Svartbergets, as I've said. Oh yeah, it's pretty nice actually. That's very, it's very kind of clean and very straight shooting in that way. So yeah, very clean, straight shooting beer, this one. Actually gives you a good little bit of sweetness as you go into the aftertaste. And I think that suits it, actually. Yeah, got a good little bit of sweetness coming out of this one. The further into the aftertaste that you go with it. So gets a thumbs up from me. Again, because it's a beer from, and I think I've said this a few times about the beers. You've also got Ore Brygg Company up there, as well. These guys, when you taste their beers, just because you know they're in the middle of the mountains, you can just taste the kind of cleanliness of the water in these beers. You know, of course, it's you can just taste the fact that it's mountain water. So yeah, this beer, it's got the flavour profile you'd expect, and it is, you know, really quite close to what you'd expect from the Munich lagers. It's a little bit more yeasty potentially, but you often find that with craft brewed takes on the you know, the big six Munich breweries. You do find that. So this one has a little bit more yeasty character to it, but and it has the flavour profile that you'd expect of the style, but it also just has that, you know, cleanliness as well. So it's really interesting, this beer. So it gets a thumbs up from me. I like this one. Would be a good core range lager for them actually, and you get a wee bit more bitterness out of this beer into the aftertaste as well. So it's quite interesting. We went from that smell where it smelled really kind of macro-y and sort of corny and stuff to actually being a really very solid take on the sort of German Helles lager beer. So, yeah, this is nice. As I say, it gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, where do we start with this then? Middle third of your palate, you can feel the backbone of the beer. You've got a nice little bit of that kind of fresh, white bready bread crust in there. Toward the front of the middle third of the palate as well, you get a little slight touch of woodiness there. But what I would say about the bready side of this beer is that it dries out a little bit, and sort of you know, you get a little bit more graininess out of it the further into the aftertaste that you go. So yeah, the way that this beer goes about its business, I think, is very, very nice. Um, it's, yeah, I just like that. The thing is as well with it, as I say, it builds up a little bit of sweetness the further you go into it as well. So yeah, bread crusty backbone, little bit of woodiness further forward. On top of the bread crust, you get a sort of layer of almost Jacob's cream cracker sort of thing, and then you have like a soft you have just like that soft white bready layer from the barley malt in this one. So yeah, um, on top of that, kind of soft white bready layer, you can feel it does actually develop a little bit of sweetness. So if you go into the dead centre of your palate, you've got a little bit of an almost oily caramelly note to it, but it almost has a little bit of it's more like a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuits, like the oily stuff that holds the McVitie's digestive biscuit together. It's kind of like that. So you get that really oily, concentrated sweet biscuity sort of thing, and as you move further out from it, you can feel the biscuity notes go from being oily and in the middle to being a little bit drier the further out that you go. So yeah, I like how that goes together for sure. So yeah, in the dead centre of your palate, there's a little bit of that oily, so as I said, a little bit more biscuit as you move out toward the edges of the palate, and yeah, you almost get the impression of just a very slight honey type flavour in the middle of the palate too, but all of that sits on top of the kind of bready notes to the beer. If you go further back on that middle third of your palate, there's a little touch of an almost Pilsner malty kind of thing there. So toward the back of that, middle third of your palate, there's a bit of, you do get that Pilsner malty dryness coming out of the beer. So yeah, the way that comes out is quite nice too. It gives the beer just that bit of dryness and bitterness, and we'll come to that in a second. So yeah, I think on that note, we've covered everything in the middle third of the palate. Let's go to the back third of the palate then. So the border region between middle third and back third of your palate, again, you get a little bit of bready build up in there. That's quite nice. The base of the back third of the palate is definitely more sort of, it's got a little bit of a more dry, bready character to it. On top of that, of course, pardon me, you do have, on top of that, you get the kind of bready layer again, and that feels a little bit taller and a little bit more airy, of course. And then there's a little touch of, you can feel some of the kind of biscuity grainy notes creep into the back third of the palate too, and then above that you've got the kind of more yeasty characters coming out of the beer. So yeah, I like that. So the yeasty notes in this beer, yeah, you get a bit more of that airy, slightly farmhousey white bread to it. But yeah, not too much to report there. But back third of the palate, you can see the flavour is a little bit taller. Then as you come further forward, it just condenses down and squashes together a wee bit more. I think that's everything to say about the malty yeasty side of this beer. It's quite a straight shooting one, this, but you know, these beers are intended to be just nice, kind of easy drinkers, and this beer certainly is that. Back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of, you do have a nice little bit of a kind of earthiness to the beer. And then as you go, you've got a little bit of earthiness there. As you move further forward, it's a little touch herbal, and as you push toward the kind of front corners of the palate, there's a little bit of floral aromaticity there, which is quite nice. And then round the front curve of the palate, it's got that little bit of lighter grassy sort of thing as well. And the floral notes actually linger there a wee bit, and the grassiness has a wee bit of zesty character to it as well. But I've got a feeling this might be one of the slightly higher alpha acid German hops, like, you know, Hercules or Perla or something like this. It doesn't feel like it's just straight up Hallertau fruit. It feels like it's got a bit more alpha acid to it. So I think Perla or Hercules in this one. So be curious to know. But yeah, that's everything we need to say about the green component of this one. Let's focus on the front third of your palate and the fruity side of the beer. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate. Again, you get that nice little bit of bready build up there. Then the base of the front third of the palate, yeah, you've got a smooth white bready sort of thing, and then on top of that, yeah, a nice kind of big oily bubble that gives you these kind of fruity esters. Still struggling with my voice a little bit, it's annoying. But yeah, the fruits in this beer are kind of, as we picked up in the aroma, at the back of the front third of the palate, yeah, you've got a little bit of you do have a little bit of that kind of gooseberry, not gooseberry, sorry, the kind of sultana, white green grapey sort of thing, dried white green grapes. As you move further forward, you start to get a more oily pear, and as you reach the kind of front tip of the tongue, you get a bit of fresh green apple, but a little bit of an almost gooseberry flavour kind of sitting underneath it. So yeah, definitely. I mean, the fruity notes in this, of course, the Helles beer is not the most fruit forward of beer, but yeah, you've got a little bit, as I say, little touch of sultana, wee bit of oily pear, and then some gooseberry and fresh green apple. These are all things you can find in this style quite commonly. And when it comes to these beers, what I look for with the lagers is that they're well made and close to what you'd expect in Germany or Czech Republic. That's what I want from these beers. And this one delivers on that. It's a little bit more yeasty, I would say. But that's something that you quite often find when it comes to the, you know, the craft brewed versions of these beers. But yeah, certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink that again, actually. Really wouldn't. When I drink beer just kind of outside of the channel, I tend to drink lager beers. I tend to drink, you know, whatever lager we have on tap in the Bishop's Arms. But yeah, that's it. But yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about the flavour of this beer. Let's just round off with a wee look at the mouthfeel. So, mouthfeel wise, this one, for me, top end of light bodied. Carbonation is kind of smooth. The mouthfeel, I would say it's quite wet and quite clean, but there's a little touch of oiliness to it as well. IBU wise, I think this is a fairly standard, you know, 20, maybe 25-ish. It does build a little bit of bitterness the further into the aftertaste you go. Bit of bready graininess, bit of smoothness in there. And yeah, you have a little touch of, yeah, you do have a nice little bit of oily fruity character to the beer too, but yeah, it gets a bit drier the further into the aftertaste that you go. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. A really nice Helles lager beer, and I wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. So yeah, let's leave it there. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are. from Svartbergets Fjällbryggeri as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point soon. But until the next time, check out my social media, check out theirs, and I'll see you again in another video. Slàinte, skål, and cheers.